Hey everybody, Haitian Homie here, and we don't have a whole lot of news from the past week. I think the Overwatch world was too busy being rocked and recovering from the majesty that was the Widowmaker from the Talent Takedown and the Widowmaker 1v1. So if you can understand how, we're coping with that, I think you can understand why we didn't have a lot of news coming out this week. But in all honesty, there really isn't a lot to get through, so let's slide through everything that happened in the Overwatch League from Monday, May 13th through Sunday, May 19th. Starting on that Monday, Upper Deck, the trading card company, and Overwatch League have announced that they're teaming up for a multi-year deal. So what this will mean, if you're not familiar, Upper Deck does a lot of popular trading cards for various professional sports. They've been doing it for like 30 years now. So this partnership will bring Overwatch League trading cards starting June 19th. I'm super stoked about that. It'll also bring stickers, sticker books, posters, and other memorabilia. So they were handing out like the first batch of Overwatch League trading cards during the All-Star events. They look super cool, especially those holographic ones. They're based on Season 1. So they have all of the Season 1 players with their original teams, and they look fantastic. I'm really excited to get my hands on some of those, and I'm not big on trading cards, but this is, to me, pretty interesting. It'd be a cool, bit of memorabilia to have. That same day, the Florida Mayhem announced that they've added flex support Byram from NRG to their roster. So if you remember from last week, NRG announced that they will no longer be fielding a Contenders team moving forward, so all of those players were released from their contracts, and it looks like Byram has found his way as a flex support, probably a backup onto the Florida Mayhem. So good for him, glad that he found a home very, very quickly. Dashing forward to Thursday, May 16th, this one really is exciting for me. Geguri made Time Magazine's list of the 10 next generation leaders. So every year, Time puts together this list of their biggest, leaders of the next generation, the people of the specific year that they say are going to change the world moving forward. And in the past, they've had some huge names on that list. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the basketball player. BTS was on there last year. The Weeknd has been on that list. John Boyega, the guy who plays Finn in Star Wars. Simone Biles, the gymnast. A lot of philanthropists, a lot of people who are looking out for the environment, a lot of, politicians, young politicians, public speakers, people in the fashion industry, anyone who's really young and rocking the world. And as far as I can tell, in all of the 5 years or so that they've put together this list, I think Geguri is the only gamer on that list, the only professional gamer on that list. So if you're not familiar with Geguri's story, I'll be linking that Time Magazine interview. You can check it out in the description. I think it's a really well put together piece, and even if it is pretty basic, I think it does a good job of explaining her story, what she went through, what the Overwatch League is about, to a audience that wouldn't be familiar with it. So I really like it. I think it's good exposure, and of all people, for it to happen to, I think Geguri is like the most wholesome. Very, very cool to see her included in that next gen list. And of course, everything that happens like this gives some more legitimacy to esports. So I was really happy to read about that. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. So link for that is in the description if you'd like to check it out. Also in good news, that same day, Nate Nanzer announced that the Stage 2 finals pulled a new season high viewership with an average minute audience of 545,000 people. So that means that at any given moment, over 500,000 people were watching the Overwatch League Stage 2 finals. That's the biggest season high viewership we've had all year. That was over 100,000 more people than watched opening weekend. So that's a big number. It means that the league is actually growing the way they want it to. So that's really, really exciting. He also announced that it's the best esports broadcast ever on ESPN, Disney, or ABC channels. Now, if I'm reading that correctly, that would include bigger viewership than like the Dota International. And a few years ago, that was huge. Wow, Dota's on TV, Dota's on ESPN, that's huge. Turns out, Overwatch League is pulling bigger numbers than Dota, which makes sense when you think that it has been a few years, and esports is starting to, again, legitimize more and more. But these are big numbers, so big things for the Overwatch League, and I'm really excited to read that. Finally, our last two pieces of news come Saturday, May 18th. Verbo, he was previously a support for the Valiant and for the Sky Fox's Contenders team. Verbo has become the new GM of Meta Sky Foxes, so he's their new general manager. He's shifting out of a player role and more into a administrative leadership role. I think that'll suit him pretty well. I mean, if we're being honest, I don't think he, was going to make it back into the league as a player, but those people who can transition from being a player into some different role, I think have great careers ahead of them in esports. Take a look at Avast. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets added, to the Overwatch League casters next year if they need more, especially as they do this expansion into, home cities. People like Dogman, I could see him being a caster once his playing days are over. People like Swoosh, who we're going to talk about in a second, but he transitioned from being a player to a coach. I think players who can do that have a long career ahead of them. Reinforced, for example, just to keep naming off names. But we do come to Swoosh. He has retired as the head coach of Eternal Academy. They had a disappointing 2-5 regular season. They placed 4th place in trials. It was a rough season for the Eternal Academy, and he has decided to leave that team. He is running for head coach of Sweden for the World Cup, so we'll see how that turns out for him. But he said he'll be talking about why he left in the upcoming days, so stay tuned to his social media if you would like to see that when he talks about it. So that's it for this week. Like I said, not a whole lot of news. If you didn't check out the All-Star event, go check it out. It was so much fun. Honestly, I could make a whole video just about that. It was probably the most fun that I've had watching Overwatch League ever. Right? Because it wasn't serious. You have these personalities that we've gotten to learn about over the past, 1.5 years, like Bren and Sideshow, and that sort of, rivalry between them. Just their personalities got to come out. We got to see emo Monty. We got to see, like, Mika wearing, like Mercy wings on stage. Semler ripping his, sleeves off. Just bizarre, just wacky, nutty, goofy nonsense, and I loved every second of it. We didn't see any goats. We saw Bren go up against Gesture. We saw all these players coming out to support their friends while they were in the 1v1s, and they're like, every time they get killed, and they're just like rocking back in their chair, and everybody's like laughing. It was just fun to watch. It was, Overwatch is supposed to be fun. Overwatch League is supposed to be fun. Esports is supposed to be lighthearted to an extent. Of course, there are still jobs and professions, but that's what makes this awesome, is that we can, have some fun, throw in some memes, and I loved it. I just could not stop smiling, couldn't stop laughing, had a great time. So I'm glad that they went over the top for the All-Star weekend. I'm glad they didn't try to keep it like, oh, these are the best of the best. The most consummate professionals were named the Overwatch League All-Stars. Nah, they were like, screw that. We're going to be dorks, and I loved it. Over the top is amazing. Super glad that they went for that. In other news, I finally broke down and bought the Adobe Creative Suite. So now I have access to all these, not free tools like Photoshop and Premiere and After Effects. So hopefully over the next few weeks, you'll see my quality of content go up as I'm learning these as I go. So now that I'm not using just free software, I have access to these really cool tools that I'm learning how to use. So hopefully my thumbnails will be getting better. Hopefully I'll be able to add some cool effects to my videos, make everything a little, spiffier. I do have a bunch of old Symmetra footage from the PS4 when you could like throw people off maps with teleporters. I want to try to do some funky little montage with that as sort of a project to see what I'm capable of with, After Effects and things. So I don't know when that'll come out, but I want that to be like a little portfolio piece, so to speak, of how I can learn these tools. So if you have any tutorials, tips, tricks, link them to me. I want to learn as much as I can as fast as I can. Because I think it's really important to know. So that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble for the past couple of minutes. And go check out those old VODs for the talent takedown and whatnot if you didn't get to check those out. Haitian Homie signing off, and I will see you all in the next video.